This is Trevor Benko, CEO of TGB Supplements.
This is Ben Jordan.
And today we're going to do a video talking about Ostarine, MK2866, Novo SARM. This is a SARM that's been around probably longer than any other SARM. It was the first SARM that was sold as a supplement, probably about what, 5-6 years? About 5-6 years ago now. And there's a lot of research out there on this SARM. It's one that's been used more than others. It was supposed to be one that was being studied to be potentially used to replace testosterone replacement at some point.
Yeah, it has the same anabolic potency as testosterone, but half the androgenic side effects.
Yeah, it's a lot less androgenic as any SARM. It binds to the androgen receptor directly, just like any other steroid does, but it is not as androgenic, and it doesn't aromatize as most SARMs. Well, all SARMs do not.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with SARM, what SARM means is selective androgen receptor modulator. We have androgen receptors in hair follicle, bone, prostate, muscle tissue. These selectively target a benefit of muscle tissue and bone. So any of the androgenic side effects, say like a prostate enlargement or acne, hair loss, these aren't really prevalent with these type of compounds.
Yeah, and that's because they do not aromatize or get converted to DHT. They do increase protein synthesis, and they are anabolic just like steroids are. The main thing is that the DHT and the estrogen conversion you do not have to worry about, because there is no direct conversion to estrogen as you would get with a steroid that can aromatize.
Yeah, Ostarine's really nice. This is what we call the entry-level SARM. It's the one that most step into whenever they first delve into the SARM world. You can build some solid muscle off of it, burn a few percentage of body fat off, as long as you get the diet to go along with it. It's nice, like we were saying, it's really clean. It's a pretty good product. It's
good for joint health. It can help with healing. A lot of guys like to try to use this as a replacement for testosterone. Maybe there's a lot of guys that don't want to go to injectable testosterone, have to worry about the injections and the side effects. So this is something that's kind of like an alternative. Though it is suppressive to your testosterone levels, it is mildly suppressive in comparison to other steroids and other compounds. So it's something that's a little bit more unique. The half-life is about 24 hours, I believe.
Yeah, we typically recommend to be dosed all together. So whatever's most convenient for somebody, whether that be 8 o'clock in the morning or 3:30 after they get off of work. If you dose it at that time every day, your blood plasma level of that compound should be stable for 24 hours.
Yeah, typically in the past when I have taken Ostarine, I took it all pre-workout. That's just the way I like to do it in the past. Here's another thing I've noticed with Ostarine from my personal experience. The first time you use it, it does seem to work a little bit better, and then down the road, for some reason, I'm not sure if that's a thing other people have noticed, but myself, that's something that I have noticed.
It also helps with bone density and mineralization, and tendon and ligament strengthening. So it was looked for like elderly with osteoporosis also, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be good for treatment of osteoporosis as well as other muscle degenerative diseases. So it can help maintain muscle mass, pretty much like steroids were researched for.
Yeah, I mean, it can be used for bulking or cutting. It's one of those universal type products, say like a Turnaball. It's not going to be something that blows you up with a lot of water that you wouldn't really want to cut on. And likewise, it can provide a decent hardening effect that if you got a clean diet, you can start to notice some pretty good vascularity and muscle hardness off of it, as long as you're lean enough.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it seems to be a good compound that you can go either way, like Ben said. If you're really looking to lean up, your diet's tight, and you go moderate dose on the Ostarine, you can get very good results with very little, risk of side effects, and other than the suppression of testosterone. Obviously, the higher you go in the dose, the more you're going to notice that. You'll probably also notice more muscle building potential, I'm sure. But there could be other side effects that maybe we're unaware of. That's one of the risks with a compound like this that hasn't been studied, on a high level or for many years. You never really know. But the side effects long term should be very similar to like a steroid, being that they're working in the same type of way, the same manner. But that could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, common dosage is around, this is an appreciable dose to get a good effect, is 20 to 25 milligrams a day. The liver toxicity, none pretty much. It's not a methylated compound, so this isn't like a dianabol, so you don't have to worry about any liver toxicity issues. Blood pressure, cholesterol, those, it seems to be pretty mild in that aspect as well. You might notice a little bit of negative side effect there if you start to get up at the upper end of the compound, milligram wise.
And as far as estrogen side effects, stuff like that, I mean, we said that it does not aromatize, but there has been some research done that shows that it may increase your estrogen levels that already are there. So if your estrogen, let's say, was like your estradiol might be 28, it could typically maybe increase that significantly over time, depending on how long you were on it. So it could slowly climb. Not really sure the exact mechanism as to why that may be, but that it has been something that was noted in some of the studies.
It's probably from it out competing the testosterone to the
Freeing
androgen receptor, and then you have more free test circulating through your bloodstream, which
Can be
indirectly
aromatized.
Gets converted through the aromatization. It's probably what it is.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, I think that's pretty good possibility. As far as androgenic side effects, they really don't exist. I mean, there's really not a whole lot because it is so mild. I mean, there's even been women that I have known that have used Ostarine with great results. I mean, obviously they need to use less than men, and it's still a risk. I mean, there's definitely some risk there. It's still an anabolic, not really meant for females, but I've known some women in higher levels of sports that have used Ostarine with great success and great results. As far as the prostate issues are concerned, they're also very rare, pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the selectivity, whether that be an Ostarine, Rad140, LGD, they're more predisposed to bind into that muscle receptor or into bone.
Now, as far as cholesterol go, this may have a negative impact on your cholesterol, pretty much like any anabolic, any SARM, steroid. So your HDL may come down, your LDL may increase, but it should be minimal compared to other compounds out there. So as long as your diet's pretty clean, you're eating a lot of healthy fats, you should be able to keep it within normal range as long as you're trying to put an effort towards that.
Yeah, if you're living on the McDonald's diet,
not a good idea.
cut back on that a little bit.
Yeah, you could take things like citrus bergamot to increase your HDL. We carry a product that I take myself from MK2866. It's called Cardiosolve and HeartSolve. Those pretty much have everything you would need to help mitigate those type of side effects. It's going to increase your HDL, hopefully. Could lower your LDL. But the ingredients in there are pretty well studied and they seem to work. I've had blood work done myself and have had good results on that product.
Yeah, just to touch on the testosterone suppression again, guys run at 4 to 6 weeks, they notice minimal, if any, suppression. We'd always recommend a test booster afterwards just for safety's sake if you don't want to get blood work done.
A quality test booster.
Yeah, not just some trip.
Yeah.
It can be extended out, like we were saying, Ostarine can be ran for a long period of time. It seems like once guys start to get around the 10 to 12 week mark, they're starting to notice some suppression there.
But that's probably
again,
to be expected.
Yeah,
with any
that's
compound.
a 3-month period of time that you're under the influence of a compound. That's kind of how SARMs get their thing. I say that they're low-key in the body. They're only hitting androgen receptors in your muscle and bone. They're not hitting all the other receptors, like, say, a D-ball would, the prostate, hair follicle, organs. So it's less noticed by the body. So that's how I feel, in my opinion, they are less suppressive. They're not noticed as much.
Yeah. And we had already talked about the liver toxicity aspect. They should be very little liver toxicity, if any at all. Administration-wise, Ben had said a pretty reasonable dose. Probably the minimum dose for guys would be like a 15 milligram starting out dose. There have been some people that have gone higher, much higher in dosing. I don't think that the results correlate as much, once you get past a certain point. And it seems like 30 milligrams seems to be the dose where you'll get a little bit more if you go higher, but you're starting to get more side effects as well.
The results are diminishing for what you get out of it.
The SARMs were meant to be very mild, a way to kind of stimulate the androgen receptor without having the side effects. And once you get to those higher doses, you're kind of negating from the SARMs altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that's with any compound. There's a very sharp point of diminishing return for what you get out of it. Say you use 100 milligrams of a product. Each time you bump up 100 milligrams doesn't going to mean you're going to get, say, a 5-pound increase like you would.
Yeah.
There's a certain point to where the results are very diminishing.
Yeah, I mean, as far as availability, SARMs are becoming, I think, a little more difficult to obtain. Even though they're more popular now, I'd say 6 years ago when they first came out, most people didn't know what they were. They were like, what is this stuff? Is it really going to do anything? People kind of wrote them off a little bit. As time has gone on and there's more research, there's more companies promoting it. Now they have picked up in popularity, I would say, but there's not as many companies selling them, especially not as dietary supplements. Because I think it's pretty obvious that they're not dietary supplements at this point. Most people seem to know that, but you will find some companies selling them as research compounds, and quality-wise, I think that's going to vary a lot because of that. Because they're research companies, you really don't know what you're getting. You may be getting a good product, or you may be getting something that's underdosed, or that's the downfall.
Yep. Always do a little bit of research before you jump into something that you might have a little bit of skepticism about. If you dig around long enough, the way bodybuilders or anybody into fitness are, a lot of us, we research anything before we take in, so you should be able to get some feedback on a certain brand or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely do some research, see what you can find. Some other ways Ostarine has been utilized. Some guys will use it in between cycles. So like nowadays it's very common for a bodybuilder to go, run a cycle, and instead of coming off the cycle, they'll do something called blasting cruising, where they might go low, to a TRT dose. Some guys go even much higher than that. They're running 400 or 500 milligrams year round, but that's not, obviously not a good thing. But let's say you do a blasting cruise where you're coming down to 200 milligrams, or you're on replacement already, and that's what you just go back to replacement. Some guys are using Ostarine as almost like a bridge in between that, or they may come off altogether. Some guys, let's say you have a high hematocrit or hemoglobin, you may come off your testosterone, but you don't want to totally not have any anabolic type of effect. You could get away with maybe running a little bit of Ostarine while you kind of let your blood come back down to normal. If you're not going to donate and you just want to let it go on its own, maybe 120 days or so on Ostarine. In between that, while you're off of your testosterone altogether, it could come back down into normal range.
The 120 days, that's how long it takes red blood cells to die off. That's as long as you don't have an insanely high elevated androgen level, which is the 400 or 500 milligram cruise dose. You're not going to get cleaned out in that aspect, so you need to drop down to your 200 or even lower. Some guys are very sensitive to the testosterone.
Some guys need to come off altogether or donate blood. So, but we're just kind of giving you another way Ostarine I have seen it utilized. Obviously in sports it's been utilized a lot, especially more so now. I think it's very, very common, a lot more than people think.
Yep. Especially the biggest thing with the connective tissue healing. People that's training in a serious sport or a functional sport, they get beat up, so they're looking for any advantage they can. More so, not so much for the muscle building capacity, just for the recovery aspect.
Yeah, and it just seems to be this seems to be a compound that's very popular with women. More so than what most people would imagine. This is probably one of the most popular, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. There's no injection, especially for females.
It's a 24-hour half-life.
Yep.
And the results seem to be pretty good. It even gives you a little bit of a mood-enhancing effect.
Yeah, I mean, the dosing's easy, like we were saying. Even for guys, if they're not wild about injections, they would use this as their cruise dose, maybe instead of a TRT dose of testosterone.
Yeah. In personal opinion, I'm definitely not against SARMs. I think it would be nice if it would be, it's our bodies. If we choose to put something in them, I feel like it should be our choice, as long as you're given the proper information and can do the research on your own. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So, these may be something that are hard to find years down the road, or they may advance into other things. It's hard to say. But personally, I think they're a pretty cool compound that's very interesting. A lot of interesting stuff going on with the SARMs.
Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody that's been training for a while, you've built a solid base, you're thinking about that next level, these are something that can give you some pretty good results.
Yeah.
If you've had a good diet and you've built a solid amount of tissue or strength over the years, you kind of know what you're doing. You can get good results off of this without having to go to that next step.
Yeah, without having to go to steroids. So really, most people, if they work hard, they diet right, their ideal physique, you could probably attain it just with SARM. So you don't need to use steroids and potentially mess up your endocrine system for the rest of your life. So, you know, this could be a good thing for a lot of people, maybe prevent them from going to that other level where you're going to get more toxicity, more potential for side effects, aromatization, DHT, hair loss, so on and so forth. You know, but anyway, so that's kind of our opinion on that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Obviously, this is not medical advice, just our opinion. You know, we're just trying to let you know what we think about these compounds, and that's about it. So we'll be coming at you with another video here soon, and hope you guys enjoy it.
Take care.
Thank you.